My name is Diana Schumacher, and I'm the chairperson of the evening. A very warm welcome this evening to our speakers, and thank you for turning up on this very cold, dark evening. And I just wanted to say that the reason for having this event today is partly because it's India Independence Day, and secondly, it's the last of the events which we had to celebrate the centenary of the birth of Dr. Fritz Schumacher, who wrote Small is Beautiful. I'm sure that you've all heard of it, and some of you may have even read it, but just to avoid any confusion, I am not related to him. I'm married to his eldest son, but in the audience I'm glad to see that there are three of his daughters. So, very warm welcome. Schumacher's work focused on the poor people of India, or his attitude towards poor people and the poor in developing countries was initiated by his visits to India in 1961 and 1962, at these two visits. And he was so moved and appalled by the squalor and degradation of people who were poor and had no means of getting themselves out of their poverty, and he wondered what he could do as an economist to help. And he thought about this at some time, and he had observed that there are two Indias, two almost separate people living side by side. There's the India of the rich and the India of the very poor. And somehow their worlds never met, and when aid is given, it's usually given through channels which ends up with the rich. And at that time, and it's partly true today, the aid very rarely went to people who were out in the villages and who were poor and who needed it most. So, following on from that, he thought that perhaps the best way to help them help themselves out of poverty was to look at what they were doing, or what their traditional means were of livelihoods, and to help them to do it better. What would they need for this? They need knowledge and they need tools. And he therefore started off by thinking what tools he could give them which would help them, which weren't the Western tools, which weren't modern technology, which was usually in the form of aid with modern machinery and things, which never got to the villages and which they couldn't use anyway. So he started with looking at the way that people could improve their livelihoods with tools. So then basically he looked at livelihood for poor people, at creating work and trying to restore the life of the villagers in poor areas, and focused quite a lot on the work of women, because he thought that women are the bedrock of the family, and that this was a good place to start. And this is where Jeevika has focused a lot of its work and efforts. It's in areas of village India where the poor people live. He termed this appropriate technology, actually. And what he was trying to do, it was a fairly radical Gandhian approach at the time, because it flew in the face of all conventional aid and development policies. So this evening we brought together a very distinguished panel of people who are going to give you their take on Schumacher's ideas in an age of austerity. And here I'm tempted to question what is meant by austerity, because the austerity that we know is actually very different from that known by millions of poor people who are living off less than $2 a day. But I hope that can be debated later. Our speakers are each going to give us their insights and outline their views in approximately 5 minutes. And then the rest of the evening is yours. And we hope that you will ask the panel questions or make your own comments. And we have approximately 8:20, and then we shall wind up and go downstairs for refreshments. The real purpose of this evening is to have a creative discussion and see what points emerge between you and the panel.